Today's lesson for Liminal Lent comes from Genesis chapter 37. Jacob settled in the land where his father had lived as an alien, the land of Canaan. This is the story of the family of Jacob. Joseph was being 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. He was the helper to the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other children, because he was the son of his old age, and he had made him a long robe with sleeves. But when the brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Once Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. Three strikes, right? Giving a bad report, having a favored robe, and then now this dream, which will is quite, famous, of being bowed down to. There's so much we can talk about liminal, the realities in this of just family dynamics and relationships, of not seeing how in families, every person kind of has their own perspective, depending on birth order, depending on circumstances in the family's life when you are born or when you're raised, or certain times you move, and depending on kind of where you fit in that family history, world history, family dynamics. You could be part of the same family, but have very, very different experiences of what the family meant and your place in it, how much you were loved, how much you were accepted. It's complicated. I love the fact that the Bible dives into so many of these family dynamics that are so real for us. So I thought today there's a story in our book, How to Lead When You Don't Know Where You're Going, about making a proper cup of tea. And just thinking about this, and I mean, granted, Joseph is 17 years old. Well, in our world, he's a kid. In that world, he should have known better, right? But making a proper cup of tea. So I just read this for you. My husband's British grandmother taught me the importance of good process when she taught me how to prepare a proper cup of tea. Like many Americans, I thought nothing of sticking a cup of water in the microwave, plopping in a tea bag, and calling it done. I valued speed over process. I didn't realize how tepid the result was until I enjoyed a full-bodied taste of tea prepared the proper way. The proper way to brew tea is to bring the kettle of water to full boil, keeping it over the heat until the kettle whistles. Meanwhile, a separate brewing pot is preheated by filling it with tap water and letting the pot rest until the kettle boils. The tepid water in the brewing pot is emptied once the kettle begins to whistle. The tea bags are inserted in the bottom of the empty brewing kettle. The boiling water from the kettle is poured over the tea bags in the brewing pot, and the tea is steeped for a full 3 to 5 minutes before serving. The tea bags are removed before drinking the tea. The heat of the water and the length of the steep will vary from one tea to the next, but careful attention to the overall process is critical. The extra time and attention required to prepare a proper tea is rewarded with noticeably fuller flavor. Discernment is similar. The process at first seems cumbersome and painstakingly slow, but when honored, it fosters rich dialogue. Just thinking of how this story is the arc of the story of Joseph, of Jacob's family, of his sons, that we'll be exploring in these next few days, makes me think about preparing tea in the right way. Because how often do we just rush? Do we not think before we open our mouths? We don't read the room. We don't see how we're impacting the people around us. We're in a threshold moment. We're in the ambiguous time, or we don't realize that other people are there. And so we just steamroll over each other. And the consequences can be hatred and brokenness, division. So I invite you to the discernment of a proper cup of tea.